4 years. There will be different things that are phased in within that time, and we're all going to be getting used to doing things a little bit more differently.
Wow. Yeah. As I said, we're just exchanging questions, and let me now glance to our mayor. Another question for you. How does your city impact the federal and state budget cut? Will this affect also educational institution in terms of also other institutions? How's the budget cut doing?
Well, the city of Minneapolis isn't an island. We get funds from the state and funds from the federal government. We have dramatically fewer funds from the state. There's been a massive cut to the city, and that affects everything we do, the police on the street, the firefighters, the roads we do. The federal government is a different situation, where Congressman Ellison works, because President Obama, Congressman Ellison, delivered stimulus dollars. The city of Minneapolis has benefited from $60 million of new resources that have gone to those most in need. Many millions of those go to fix our public housing, where so many Somalis have been able to use those as a gateway to becoming part of the American dream. Those housing units that have been left underinvested for many, many years. Now you'll see big investments there. You'll see in our employment and training that there were, I believe, 50 Somali young people who were working last year as part of our Step Up program directly as a result of the Federal Recovery Act. There are now 2 Somali police officers, the first in the United States of America, working beat patrols in Cedar Riverside. They're funded in part by federal stimulus dollars.
That is great.
So one of the things that's happened is that by Somalis getting out and helping elect a president, by them getting out and helping elect a congressman, you went to a federal government that gets it and understands it. I was in a conversation with some people from the White House a couple weeks ago about Somali youth. And that conversation was dramatically different than it had been during the Bush administration. During the Bush administration, it was about punishment and fear and suspicion. During this administration, it's been very different. It was very much about how do we work together with the community? How do we get at the core issues? I spent a lot of time talking to them about some of the core issues. One, for instance, that I raised was that in my meeting with Somali parents, I think we all should be so amazingly proud of the great works most of our young people are making here, but some have moved in the wrong direction. And with Somali immigrant families, like many immigrants, when you come to the country and suddenly the elders who are used to leading families are dependent on their children for translation, everything else, the family dynamic changes. And so we need to help do some support programs for Somali parents.
Really good. That's really
And so these are the kinds of things that I can now be in a conversation literally with the White House about, where they are reaching out and trying to understand those issues, and to have a congressman who comes with such incredible depth in the community. So we're in dramatically better shape. What we're doing with the state, I think, unfortunately, is still a challenge with our funding, and we'll just keep working on it.
Would you add some?
Yeah, there's a few important points. I mean, historically, during the Bush administration, the conversation around the Somali community basically was limited to sort of a security issue. Now, along with some immigration conversation, but mostly focused on security. Now we have a broader relationship, a relationship that's based on things that all Americans care about, like healthcare, education, what to do with a growing youth population, opportunity for young people, training, all these things that every American should expect from their government. So we're in a new situation and a new dynamic. The fact is, I think that our country is going through a big change. I think we've seen the politics of you're on your own, government's not here to help you, it's all just cut the taxes down and not have enough money to fund government services, and if people don't conform to the norms of society, just throw them in jail or maybe deport them if you can. And we're seeing now that we really do need each other in our community. We are in this thing together. And so what I'm seeing is a new spirit where the city, including the police department, fire, along with federal partners and partners on the state who step up and help, and the county, we're all sort of playing better as a team than we have before. We do need to have a good partner in the state, and which means that it's important for the Somali community to be politically engaged. But I'm very optimistic about what the next several years might mean because we are working together.
Another question for you this time. Mr. Congressman, you sitting on the House Financial Committee and
Yes.
Foreign Affairs Committee. In your statement, I just watched C-SPAN as I was looking for your own. I saw and I came across to see the statement of proximity talks
Right.
between Israel and the Palestinian leaders. You used the repeatedly the two words, peace and security. What do you mean that?
Well, what I mean is that conflict, particularly in the Middle East, but it could be in the Horn of Africa or anywhere, is a threat to even people here in Minneapolis. And so it's important for our government to use the tools of diplomacy to try to bring parties together to resolve conflict, which can hopefully stop wars or prevent them so that all of us can be safe. Let me tell you, our military, but when Mayor Ryback got into office, our military budget was about $290 billion a year. Now it's about $708 billion a year.
I didn't have anything to do with that.
Right. He didn't come. More than double. And as a result of that, we're here in Minneapolis hoping and praying to have enough police to walk the beats, hoping and praying to have enough teachers and firefighters and people who do public works and things like that. But if we use diplomacy, we can prevent conflict. Now, between the Israelis and the Palestinians, the truth is, right here in the 5th Congressional District, you have a lot of constituents who are very, very concerned about that region of the world. You have people who watch the news over there all the time, and I get a lot of calls from people who live right here in Minneapolis but want to tell me their opinions on Israel, Palestine, and the conflict. And so when I was on C-SPAN, I was saying that I was congratulating Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Abbas for entering into this agreement to these talks with an eye toward direct talks, with an eye towards final status agreement, because it is in the American national interest to have that conflict come to an end, just like it is in our American national interest to help bring peace and stability to Somalia. And I'm going to tell you this, and I tell everybody this, as a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, my number one foreign policy priority is stability in Somalia.
Wow.
So you should know that. To me, stability in Somalia means we cut down on the pirating, we make sure that regional neighbors like Kenya and others are stable, and we'll talk more about it.
We'll talk more about it this time. Let me give the opportunity for the mayor. Mayor, thank you. Another question for you. Somali community and the residents of Minneapolis are grateful to your dedication and service. Please share with us also some insights and also the understanding the Somali community and also engaging the reduction in terms of reduction of crime, housing. You talked about housing, but a little bit talk about the crime.
Right.
The Somali community.
Yep. Over these last few years, Minneapolis has had a historic decrease in crime. Crime decreased dramatically, and part of that was because we had to do some tough things with the police, but mostly what it was.
It decreased, right?
What's that?
It decreased a little.
Went way down.
Oh,
But part of that was largely because we were in partnership with the community.
Yeah.
Now, over these last couple of months, we've seen a bit of an uptick in crime. And that's been especially a very small core group of very violent offenders with too much access to guns. So we've been very focused on that, and that's where we're going. Within the Somali community itself, one of the biggest things we've done is to say that we don't want our relationship between the police and the community to be at the time of a conflict. So we have ongoing dialogues monthly with members of the community and our police. As I mentioned, we brought on Somali officers who are working beat patrols. We also, and again, this is part of the federal stimulus, have hired for the summer Somali youth to be outreach workers as well. We're partnering with a lot of nonprofits to engage more. So we want our police and our Somali communities to be working together on it. The place where I think we still have a challenge is in our youth violence prevention work. We've been very, very successful in decreasing crime among juveniles across the board, and the vast majority of Somali youth are doing really, really wonderful things here. But we have this very small core group of young people who we still have a challenge with. As we really dig into that, a lot of what it involves is often young people who came here to live with a family member. A member of their family may have died, or they may